Hi, so this is, uh, we'll basically use OneUptime to configure SSO in a new project, and I'll basically show you how to do this with Okta. You can basically use any other identity provider of your choice. Azure Active Directory would be the other one, that most people use. Okta is the most popular at this time, so we'll basically get started with that, first. Okay. So if you look at my tabs, I have an Okta user tab. You don't see any apps on here. This is the Okta admin. So I've basically signed up for a temporary Okta account just to do this demo. And this is the admin side of an admin side of things. And this is the OneUptime dashboard. Currently it's running on localhost, but it's exactly the same thing as the cloud version, or or a self-hosted version as well. So let me create a new project. When I create a new project, I can say app test. SSO is only available in scale and an enterprise plan. Uh, this could change in the future, so please feel free to look at the billing page and see if SSO is enabled for your plan, and if it is, you'll basically see that option in project settings. So I click on enterprise, I hit create project, and when I do that, this is how it looks like. When you create a project, you have this more option up top. So click on project settings, and when I click on project settings, I can basically go to SSO. I can say single sign-on, and when I click on a new configuration, I can just say this is Okta, sign in with Okta. Sign on URL, I will basically get it from Okta. So let me switch to my Okta tab, click on applications, click on create app integration, SAML 2, click next. I would say OneUptime, so I can basically upload a logo here if you like as well. Sign on URL, so it basically asks me a sign on URL of my OneUptime instance. Currently I do not have that because I have not created a configuration. So what I would do is I would basically quickly do a temporary thing. So I would say google.com. I would basically paste in google.com here as well, and click on next. This is a temporary configuration, and I would say I am an Okta customer building an internal app, finish. And when I do that, if I go to my applications page, you should see do OneUptime, which basically I think it's this. The other one I created earlier for a quick demo. Let me just quickly check. If I go to general, okay, yeah, this is the OneUptime project. Now what I would do is I would basically click on sign on, click on view SAML setup instructions. That opens up in a new tab. So I basically copy and paste this URL. Identity provider issuer is basically this, and the certificate I can copy and paste the whole thing up here as well. Signature method, Okta uses SHA-256, so I'll basically select that, enabled. This SSO is currently enabled. Teams, so I have 3 teams by default in my new project. So if I click on this, I have members, admins, and owners. You can create a new team, or you can edit teams, edit permissions, and all of that stuff, and it'll basically show up here. You can do that in the team section of project settings as well. So I click on members, I say create SSO, and when I do that, I have this view SSO URL button, and I click on view SSO URL. This is the URL that I would paste it back into Okta. So I copy this, I go back to the Okta section, I click on edit, click next, and I can paste these URL up here, hit next and finish. One last thing I need to do before I start using this SSO is I need to assign this application. I can deactivate this particular thing because I don't need it. Let me just double check if it's the same thing that we configured, and it is, yes. So let me assign this application to one of the users I have, and once we do that, I say assign to users. I can say assign to myself. Once I do that, I'm assigned to it, and when I go back to my Okta user dashboard, I should see that application up here. There you go. Okay. So once I do that, I can basically click close, and I can basically, so you say force SSO for login. Do not enable this unless you test things up. If you enable this and if things are not working, you will be locked out of your project. You need to basically contact us to reset this. So since the SSO is now configured, we have an app on Okta. My email on Okta is different than my my admin account here, so I'll probably sign out of this account, and I'll probably click on this Okta app to see my sign up experience. So if I click on this, it'll basically show me you have not signed up so far, which is expected because I have to create a local OneUptime account first, and then I can use SSO to basically sign into the project. So I can copy this email, which is my Okta email, and I'll probably sign up for an account. So this is OneUptime, just a temporary. Click on sign up, and when I do that, I'm right into the project. I have not been asked for SSO, and the reason for that is because the required SSO is turned off for this project. So I will currently I cannot sign in via SSO because that's turned off, but to test, what I can do is I can change the URL to SSO, and I'll be able to test. So this is my Okta SSO that we've just configured. So if I click on this, I will go back to the Okta app. It says email not verified. Let me actually verify that email real quick. Okay, I have verified my email on the other tab or the other window. Let me actually go back to this and close this, click on this again, and I should basically be into the project. Now what I can do is I can actually sign out of this, sign back into the SSO test account, which I have, which is basically the admin of the project. OneUptime.com. Go back to project settings. I can click on SSO, and I can say force SSO is yes. And when I do that, I'm basically automatically logged out of this account. It basically says I need to sign in. So I'll basically log out completely and click on this. Click on this again. This is expected. First, I need to sign in to my OneUptime account. So I can, let me sample. There you go. Signed in. And once I do that, I'm basically taken to this Okta page, and when I click on this, I am basically signed in to the project. Hopefully this helps to configure SSO. You can configure this with Okta, Azure Active Directory, any other SAML 2 provider you have out there. And if you need help, you can always contact us. Thank you so much for listening.